Hi everyone, I am Navneet Mann and I have secured All India rank 33 in the Civil Services examination of 2019, and in this video I will be discussing my preparation strategy regarding two papers, that is the ethics paper, that is a GS4 paper, and the essay paper. Now before diving into that, I will first give a brief background about myself. I am a BTech Computer Sciences graduate. I did my graduation from Indira Gandhi Delhi Technical University for Women. It's in Delhi, and thereafter I gave my first attempt and I got selected in that, and I was allotted the Indian Defence Account Services, which I have joined, and in the next attempt, which is this year, I have secured the rank 33. Now before beginning the preparation strategy, I'll discuss one aspect of this video. My keen focus was on to discuss essay and ethics specifically in this video was because the reason being that many toppers over the years have suggested that you should focus on essay and ethics paper, and I was like, I never understood the real reason behind it, but it is over the passage of time that I have actually realized the importance of these two papers. The other three GS papers, namely GS 1, 2, 3. Now in these three papers I have observed over the years that the marks of the candidates are very tightly packed. Of course there are outliers, but at the same time it is in the papers of essay and ethics which can act as key differentiators in your result. So I would suggest every candidate is that to not neglect definitely these two papers. To some extent I did that in my first attempt, and this time my aim was that I should be thoroughly prepared in these two papers specifically. Now moving to the preparation strategy, I'll first go with the ethics paper. The ethics paper is regarded by many, I do regard it as the most abstract paper, and which is difficult to grasp because there is nothing concrete in it. And so the question arises that from where should we start preparing? I would suggest for every aspirant, I would say the most cliched thing, that you can start by reading the syllabus. Now my aim was that if I am not able to memorize the syllabus of GS 1, 2, 3, at least I will memorize the syllabus of ethics paper. The reason being that it is this paper only in which you will be quoting direct terms lifted from the syllabus. For instance, terms like conflict of interest, crisis of conscience, and probity in governance. These are phrases and terminologies directly mentioned in the syllabus. You will be studying them, and these will be used repeatedly in your answers, including your case studies. So I would suggest the first step that you can take in this paper is to thoroughly memorize your syllabus of ethics paper. Now secondly, the question arises about how to go by preparing for this paper. The second most important aspect is note making. Now for many ethics paper, since it's very abstract, they have the school of thought that probably we'll write from our heart. But to take things towards a logical turn, I would suggest that ki last din pe you really can't think from your heart after having a tireless journey of writing paper 1, paper 2, फिर next दिन पे paper 3, evening में paper 4, we all are pretty much very tired. So to get into that headspace of writing down answers, you have to actually, I suggest to make some crisp notes, not very long and bulky. I would suggest 25 to 30 pages crisp notes in the ethics paper would help you to get into the groove. At the same time, revise at the last time, and lastly, it will help organize your studies with respect to this paper. So the next thing is in the ethics paper, how to prepare notes. Now note making in essay paper, I followed a very standard format, and which I will discuss, and the only condition, the subject condition was that for every word of the ethics paper, I will make a 1-page note on it, not beyond that. Whatever material for a given specific topic that I will collect, it will just be of 1 pages, not beyond that. Now I'll first discuss my basic framework on note making in ethics. In note making in ethics, the first important and the most basic thing that you can actually do for any term is to start by the definition. So for any topic in ethics, definition is the most basic and the most important thing. Now in definition, the thing should not be that you should describe, for instance, any term in more complex terms. For instance, any term like honesty should be actually explained in very simple and lucid terms with limited use of words. Besides definition, you can also go for introducing your answer by the use of any quote, or probably by any one-liner as well. I'll give you an instance of the topic of emotional intelligence. So your standard books and notes will give you the definition of emotional intelligence, but at the same time you can use a one-liner as well. For instance, in my notes I had that one-liner that emotional intelligence means to reason with emotions and use emotions in our reasoning. And after the definition and the quote and the one-liner, use any one of the three. The next important thing is to incorporate examples. I think by far this is the most important aspect of ethics. The problem with ethics is that, as I have mentioned repeatedly, it is a very abstract paper. And कहते हैं ना कि जो हम लिख रहे हैं, it is completely हवा की बातें. So to make your answers much more concrete and to add a little more weight to your answers, I think you should incorporate few examples. Now these examples can be from any walk of life. My fixed format was to use examples either of eminent personalities like civil servants, or historical figures or events, or it can be drawn from your personal life as well, or for instance day-to-day events as well. Now for any aspirant, these two things are the most important aspects. If you want to make notes in your ethics paper, you should at least do these two things. Now the next, I'll include 4 more things which you can prepare in your notes. These are the 2 most basic ones, the other 4 are optional for you. The third aspect of it is to incorporate flowcharts and diagrams. The reason being the same as I gave in the example scenario, that flowcharts will make your answers a little more objective and concrete, and finally they will add weight and a little more clarity to your answers. For instance, for emotional intelligence, I used to make this diagram of self-awareness, of self-regulation, motivation, social skills. So I think there are around 13 10 markers question in your ethics paper. So I suggest that in 13 papers, don't go for a liberal use of flowchart in every question, but in 3-4 questions, if you go for the use of flowcharts, then probably that would make your answer, that will actually break the monotony of the paper. So flowcharts can be relied on, but they should not be very liberally used. Then the 4th aspect is that of importance. In personal life and in public administration. This is an important aspect. Now the importance of any particular value, for instance emotional intelligence, probity or integrity, then after covering these aspects, you can also write down 2 or 3 points regarding what is the importance of emotional intelligence with respect to public administration or in general your personal life. For instance, with respect to public administration, emotional intelligence is required because it helps you in stress management, adds to your commitment of work, at the same time helps you to understand the grievances of the disadvantaged sections. You will find these points in the standard books. But using this format, you can actually organize your notes in a much more coherent fashion. Then the fifth aspect in the notes that can be covered is the challenges or the issues. Now, every value or every ethical principle that we are trying to incorporate in our ethics paper will certainly have some issues and challenges associated with it. And for instance, with respect to emotional intelligence, the challenges can be like the colonial legacy or the structural rigidities of the bureaucracy, or probably political interference or social prejudices. So these are some common points which are not just used in emotional intelligence, but I think probably in a lot of ethics answers regarding with respect to challenges or issues. So you can add value to these answers by incorporating this aspect as well. And the sixth aspect is that if you are giving issues and challenges, then you will also include some solutions or steps as well. So solutions can be the last aspect of your answer before the conclusion, and I used to expand the solution using the stakeholder approach, which we'll do in the case studies as well. This can be at the individual level, organizational level, then administrative level, national or societal level as well. So I would suggest that when you read your coaching notes or you read any book, sometimes the entire notes or the book probably may be organized in not a very good manner, which actually makes your learning a little more difficult. So in that sense, you can organize your notes in this manner if you like, so that at the last minute it will make things clear for you and you can revise them quickly as well. Out of all these things, I would suggest definition and examples are a must, and if you can find from the internet more information on all these aspects, then it would be definitely a cherry on the top. Now, after having discussed note making, I would suggest the next most important aspect of the ethics paper is definitely answer writing. Now, answer writing is important, as many toppers suggest, because the ethics paper is lengthy. Now, the question arises why the ethics paper becomes lengthy. Now, to put things in perspective, for instance, if we take the example of the question in the GS1 paper, for instance, question on write a short note on Buddhist stupas or a question related to that, then you would have memorized the definition of stupas, the relevance of Buddhism, then some examples and historical sites of it. So that is in your memory and you just have to write it down. But the problem with the ethics paper is that even if you have learned the definition, memorized the entire concept using all these aspects, but the problem arises that your answers are not arranged in a ready-made form and you will have to cook up answers on the spot. And this thinking aspect of the ethics paper is something which makes this paper lengthy. And therefore, your purpose should be to shorten this thinking time. And to shorten this thinking time, the most important exercise that you can do is to go for answer writing. And I would suggest from my experience that every candidate should go for writing at least 3-4 ethics tests, either in a controlled environment or at least at home before the mains exam. And you can go and answer writing as well. You should also refer to the answers of toppers as well, so as to gauge from the perspective that what are the kind of answers that UPSC expects. Now, after answer writing, a talk on ethics will never be complete without a little bit of discussion on case studies. Now, case studies itself is a very important component because it carries a weightage of around 120 to 125 marks, and definitely it can't be neglected. So, in that sense, case studies do not need to be memorized, instead they need to be practiced. And for that, I followed a very basic framework, and which everyone does. It was first to read the question very carefully at least twice, then identify the basic problem statement. There are central themes of case studies, for instance, conflict of interest, or the question of gender issues, or the scenario of environmental degradation versus development. There are basic themes and you should identify the crux or the basic theme of the case study. After you have identified the problem statement, you can go to the next step, which is identifying the stakeholders and their interest. Then after you have done that, the third aspect can be to identify the ethical issues and the ethical dilemmas. And the ethical issues and ethical dilemmas, as I earlier said, two are the key terms which are generally mentioned in the syllabus. For instance, conflict of interest, crisis of conscience, etc. After having thought about ethical issues and dilemmas, I think the next thing that you can do is to identify the options which are available to you in that scenario. Now, in case studies, everyone thinks of the same options. There are around 3 or 4 options, and the question demands that you have to give the merits and the demerits of it, and then you have to identify the option that is more suitable to you. Now, the purpose of the case studies is that you should not try to cook up a very original and an exclusive option. Your purpose of the case study should be to choose an option which is ethical as well as almost practical, even though your option you choose is not original. And therefore, the thing is, what makes your answer different from the others? It is the reasoning that you give behind your option. If you are able to very well justify the option, that why you chose it, and on the other hand why you rejected the other options, then that is the thing that will add to your marks in the case studies. And I would mention, I think, one more thing with respect to that is that you should read the question that is asked. Generally, UPSC asks 2 types of questions. They'll ask, on one side, mention all the options, merits, demerits, and the option that you will choose and why. On the other hand, they can also mention the course of action that you will take as Mr. X or Miss X. So, generally what we end up doing is that for the second type of question, like the course of action, we'll again go for writing options, merits and demerits. I think we should go with the demand of the question. If the examiner is asking course of action, your 2 pages should be dedicated to give what all things that you will do. You will discuss the short term measures, the long term measures, not the options, demerits and merits. You can give a passing reference to the things that you will definitely not do, but in the latter type of questions, your focus should be on discussing the course of action that you will take. And another type of questions that are asked is identify the stakeholders and their interest, and the ethical dilemmas and the ethical issues. Now, if the question is asked, then you will definitely write those. And we have a habit that even if the stakeholders aren't asked, we'll still write the stakeholders. That is good to write, but at the same time, again, they should not be overused, and the stakeholders shouldn't be written in every answer. There are 6 case studies, then you can probably write stakeholders for around 2 or 3, but not for every answer in which, even in those questions in which it isn't asked. So, I think case studies, the crux of it is that you should practice them a lot. For instance, I remember when I was going to appear for mains this year, even if I wasn't revising my ethics notes of the first part, but I also always try to ensure that at least once a week I would do a case studies test at home. That is, for 1 hour I will try to write 4 case studies, so that you continue to remain in the groove as to how to tackle these case studies questions, right. So, in ethics paper, I think you should focus upon, firstly I will sum it up as memorizing the syllabus thoroughly. Secondly, going for preparing crisp notes, which should definitely have a definition as well as an example. Thirdly, you cannot forget answer writing, because it's definitely a must. And fourthly, you should not neglect your case studies as well. In my opinion, is probably the real game changer in the mains exam. I think the marks of the essay papers can range from just 100 marks to probably a score of 160 and even 170 in some years. So, this is actually the essay paper which serves as the key differentiator in your exams in the mains, and it is one aspect of this examination which you definitely can't miss upon. And this is actually the problem with many candidates who give the exam in their first attempt. Same case for me, because we are so engrossed in finishing our GS or our optional subject that we almost forget about preparing for the essay paper, and it is this paper which ends up marring our chances of being in a finalist. And I think it is this paper that can actually make your mar your result. So in this respect, I'll give about how I went about preparing for the essay paper. Now first thing first is that how you should go for preparing your notes or preparing for the essay paper. Now the first issue is that of the content. Many candidates are very much apprehensive that content kahan se laye, but I can assure you that after finishing your GS, your optional, then reading your newspaper every day, there will be no shortage of content at all. I think the problem would be that you would have too much content. So content is definitely not an issue. Yes, the least that you can do is that you can prepare a collection of notes, that is theme wise, which many do. For every theme like education, health, women empowerment, you can go for, I think, preparing 5-6 quotes in each of them and memorize them as they suit you. But more than this, I think it is the manner in which you practice your essay paper and write it down finally in your exam, that's more important. And I'll discuss how I used to attempt my paper. But I think before that, I'm reminded of one important aspect of this exam, is that the essay paper, the purpose of the examiner is probably not to judge your vocabulary, and I think it's definitely not to judge your expertise on the given subject matter. The purpose of UPSC for this essay paper is that they want to judge the candidate's ability to write their views on that given subject in a coherent and in a structural manner. So even if your content is very simplistic, your language doesn't involve pompous words, the crux of the matter is that you should attempt your essay paper such that for the examiner it is a very light and easy read. He or she should probably enjoy it. It should not be very academic, rather it should be easy on the eyes. So in that respect, I'll discuss the entire psychology as to how in the examination room you should go for preparing, attempting your essay paper. So whenever you see the question paper, for every 4 choices you have to choose one option. Now I think that is, if you can choose your option very well, that is half the work is complete. So I would suggest that when you see the question paper, there are 4 essay options in front of you. Thoroughly read all the 4 options very thoroughly. Once you have done that, choose an option, and once you have chosen that option, never backtrack from that. When you have started writing, for instance, essay number B, do not think about A, C and D, because it will end up messing up your thought process. So the purpose is that once you have chosen your essay topic, do not go about thinking the other 3 essays. Once you have chosen the topic, I think the next thing that you should not miss out is on creating your rough work, that is at the back of the page, creating a basic structure or a skeleton of your essay paper. Now equally important than writing the essay is to create a proper rough work for that as well, because you have to write 1000 to 1200 words, and it's probably not possible for any regular candidate that they can go for simply writing their essay in fair without the use of rough work. So after choosing the essay, you should definitely go for creating a 1-page rough work in which you can simply jot down all the important points that you probably can think of that can be mentioned in the essay, and then creating a rough structure for that. because after you have devoted 15-20 minutes for that essay, then writing the essay in 1 hour, writing 1000 words in the 1 hour very neatly, and I think probably slowly, it is the least lengthiest of all the papers, it will become a cakewalk for you. You can even, I think, go for practicing rough work at home. I found that idea very good, especially because I am not a very good expert at philosophical essays. So during my mains prep, I used to just practice rough work for 15 minutes of any philosophy based essays, because it helped me to get in that mindset of how to jot down the points for a philosophy based essay, then how to structure that essay, and therefore on the final day I didn't face difficulty in that aspect. Now after you have created the rough work, the next thing about the essay is the content, that how to arrange your thoughts and your points in a logical and a coherent manner. So the format is fixed as in the UPSC answers, that is the IBC format: introduction, body and conclusion. Now in the firstly discussing the introduction aspect. Now in essay, the introduction I think is probably the trailer for your essay. If you can make your introduction very interesting and very fresh and probably spark you to read, then probably that catches the attention of the examiner and he would be tempted to further dwell and read your essay. So I think the introduction should itself be a very good start to your essay, and there are various ways in which probably you can begin your essay. The first most used format is to begin your essay with a quote, or you can also go for sharing an anecdote. Now the anecdote can be imaginary, or it can be even a real incident, historical, or occurred in the present scenario. My preference was to either go for the use of a quote or go for the use of anecdote which is drawn from real life. I stayed away from the imaginary category. Then after you have introduced your essay, the essay, mentioning one just more thing, in the introduction, the purpose of it is to give the glimpse of what you are going to write. So it should give a very brief idea as to what all content that you will be discussing in your body. It should not be a literal summary of your body, but it should have the central idea of the essay or the body that you are going to discuss in this paper. Now after having introduced your essay, the next important aspect is the body of the essay paper. Now over the years, all have suggested that you can go for expanding your body of the essay paper across multiple dimensions, make it more multi-dimensional, and I did the very same thing. You can expand your essay spatially across dimensions like political, social, economic, environmental, technological, etc. You can also go for expanding your essay temporally, past, present and future. And next you can also incorporate the level of institutions like local level, regional level, national level and finally international level. And of course the problem solution format is also used. Now having given these 4 formats, I would suggest that you should not go for forcefully incorporating all these 4 types of formats in your essays. All essays probably don't require you to discuss it from the political, economic or social perspective. These are the basic ideas across which you can expand your essay. It's not necessary to include all these types of dimensions in your essay. If there is scope for it, go ahead. If not, then probably there is some other way that you can expand your essay. It can be temporally or problem solution based. So I think it depends upon the nature of the essay that you are writing. In the body, now my basic format was that for each paragraph, I'll only incorporate just one idea. That is one para is equal to one argument. And while I'm discussing an argument in a single para, I will also incorporate some example along with it, so that probably my argument is much more substantiated. And within the paras, of course, you should not forget incorporating and linking the paras. You can link them by, for instance, ending one para with a sentence like, after having discussed this dimension, we can now discuss, we can go ahead with looking into this aspect of such and such subject. Or you can incorporate in the second para as well in a likewise fashion. Then after finishing your body comes the conclusion, and in the conclusion aspect you have to give again the central idea of your essay. You should not give again a very literal summary of your essay that you have written, but rather give the central nuances around which your essay and your arguments revolved. And there is one more thing, in the essay paper you should never deviate from your topic. I had a habit of that when I am going to begin a page, I will go back and read the essay topic, so that I am constantly aware that I am sticking to the line that the topic says. Because once you go for deviation, it is at that point you start losing your marks. So always stick to the topic, and I think probably it would be the best way to do so is that at every page you would incorporate one or two phrases or sentences which the essay paper, the essay question or the topic has. So to make things a little more clearer, I have a question and essay topic with you all, and I'll briefly discuss as to what my thought process is regarding tackling a essay topic, and you can probably do so in a similar manner if you like it. And this is a question which is directly lifted from GS Core's essay paper which I did last year, and let's go ahead with it. The topic says, democracy cannot succeed unless those who express their choices are prepared to choose wisely. So in this aspect of the topic, the key issue of discussion is that you have to evaluate the success of the democracy. And if you read carefully, the question asks that a determinant for the success of democracy depends upon who are expressing their choices. It implies expressing choices means those who are voting. So it depends upon the voters, and they should be prepared to choose wisely. So the central theme of the essay is to evaluate whether a given democratic system is successful or not, and if it's not successful, it is probably the reason being that those who are expressing their choices, that is the voters, probably they are not prepared to choose wisely, right? So after having understood the central theme, your next step should be to identify the key words in the essay. Now in an essay topic, there are around I think 2 to 4 keywords in every essay paper, and you have to your purpose should be to identify those 2 to 4 keywords, then discuss them separately, and finally collate them and give your final argument. So in this essay topic, I think I can identify 3 major keywords, and these are democracy cannot succeed, then it is who expresses their choices, and lastly prepared to choose wisely. So these are the 3 aspects which we are going to discuss, and I think the key determinant for this essay topic is that the choices will depend upon those who are prepared to choose wisely. So the star phrase of this essay is this. So your purpose should be to highlight and discuss this aspect of the essay most elaborately. So the general framework which I think I can make up for this essay paper is that firstly we will follow the IBC format. Firstly we will go for the introduction. You can go for the use of any quote, most basic quote being Abraham Lincoln's democracy by the people, of the people, for the people. and you can also go for using an anecdote. For democracy, the basic anecdotes revolve around French Revolution, Indian independence. But the theme of this essay, I think, is about the success of democracy depending on the voters. And I am reminded of the theme of probably in Germany during the time of Adolf Hitler, because at that time it was not that he forcefully entered and became the head of the state. It was probably initially that it is the citizenry that initially voted for him, and then finally he snatched all the power and became authoritarian. So I think the Hitler's story can serve as the intro for this essay, in which we can introduce by saying that the interwar period in Germany was a turbulent time, and which saw a lot of very gruesome incidents involving hyperinflation, war, etc. And in these times, it was Adolf Hitler who emerged as a very prominent leader. But it was not Adolf Hitler who chose to run as the head of the state. It was the general electorate who were frustrated by years of war and deprivation, that they went for choosing a leader like Adolf Hitler. And therefore, then you will write the central theme, that the introduction of a democratic form of government is not enough to determine its success. Rather, the most important aspect of the success of democracy depends upon the voter and his choices, and whether he or she is wise enough to successfully choose a good leader, right? Now, after having introduced the essays, you will go for the body form. You will go for the main body and the main content, in which you have to, as I earlier said, you have to focus on these three aspects of your topic. The first aspect is, as you can see, democracy cannot succeed. So here the question is, the main essence is the determination of success of democracy. Now you can begin by writing the definition of democracy. Rule of the people, for the people, by the people. Or you can go for breaking the term democracy as demos or kratos, that is, demos means people, kratos means power. Then you can discuss that democracy was introduced, was not just a modern concept. It came from the ancient times, from I think the times of ancient Greece. Even India had it in the form of Buddhist sanghs. Then after discussing what is democracy, you have to address the main aspect of this phrase, that is the success of democracy. Now, in the success of democracy, you should evaluate that what do you mean by successful democracy. In this, the most important aspect is that in today's times, probably we can think that the by default form of government is democracy. Thinking of any other form of government, for example authoritarianism or monarchy, is something which is probably very unnatural for us. So you can incorporate that the success of democracy is very much evident by the fact that today democratic form of governments are the maximum in number. Then you can also discuss, now you can incorporate the dimensions which I was mentioning about. So at the individual level, democracy, it can be successful if the government of the day is cognizant of the needs and aspirations of the individuals. Then you can move to the societal level. You can suggest that democracy is successful if there is rule of law, and if all the people and individuals in the society have right to equality. Then you can even move at international level and suggest that democracy is successful at the international level if there is equality and equity among all the nations, whether from north or south. And you can incorporate the example of, I think probably I can think of Kyoto Protocol. So I think you can expand the dimension of success of democracy along these three aspects, it's not necessary to elaborate one para on each 3 of them. You can go for using any 1 or 2 of them and give just one passing reference to these, because our main focus is this phrase, not this and this one. I think this should be finished in just 1 or 1.5 pages, not beyond that. Then the third point involves the second phrase of this essay, who expresses their choices. So in this who, that individual who is the voter. So the essay suggests that the key determinant of the success of the democracy is the voter. So in this probably you will discuss the role of voter. So you have to discuss half a page or 3/4 of a page on the role of the voter. Now you can discuss something like voter, that for a voter the voting is probably not just a right but also a duty. And then you can suggest that voting, the practice of voting adds to the legitimacy of the state. It involves the ability of the state to govern. So you can just give a reference to this second phrase which explains the role of the voter, incorporate 1 or 2 examples, and then focus on this key aspect of this essay topic, that is prepared to choose wisely. Now prepared to choose wisely implies that whether the voter has the capability or the capacity to vote properly, right? So the first aspect that we can discuss is that the voter will have the capacity to vote if he or she has the basic level of education or literacy, right? So here prepared phrase is your third aspect which you need to discuss in the greatest detail. So prepared. So the question is, how will the voter be prepared? So the voter can be prepared through education or literacy. This is the most basic thing that is required. But here you can also give a counter argument with respect to India, because you have to give this example because we live here. So education and literacy is just not enough. For instance, in 1947, in the post-47 elections, many thinkers and many eminent personalities in the West suggested that India was not ready for general elections, because here an average Indian was more interested in having the ability to fill his stomach rather than to go and vote. However, still the Indian democracy is thriving, and so that shows the success of democracy in India. So the question is that this aspect of preparation of education and literacy, especially with respect to India, is just not enough. So incorporate the second dimension, that preparation also involves a country to have democratic culture. That is, democracy is not just a political system where people will go and vote. It will imply that democracy is a way of life, and you will incorporate all the important terms that you read with respect to democracy, like that a democratic culture involves tolerance, inclusiveness, equity, etc. And using that you will show that when the electorate has education and literacy as well as democratic culture, then they will be able to choose wisely, and then the democracy will be successful. Then you will also include the aspect that the question is in the negative sense, na? Ki when it is not, then what will happen? So the not aspect is also required to be discussed, that if the electorate is not prepared, then what will happen? So incorporate the situation that when democracy is when the voters cannot choose wisely, then the democracy will fail, and you can use examples of African civil wars. Then you can go for the rise of authoritarian leaders, etc. So, and then finally you can give solutions for it, that how to better prepare the citizenry of a country to make democracy successful, various examples you can use, for instance, voter education, social auditing, even decriminalization of politics. And after you have given the solution, you can conclude the essay by giving up the central idea that capacity building is required, but at the same time democracy should also be a way of life. Then you can also give a reference back to Hitler and sum up your essay, because it will give a well-rounded effect to your essay. So the purpose of this exercise is to give an idea as to how I used to go about thinking about an essay in 15-20 minutes. The gist being that I would firstly, as everyone does, think about an introduction which gives a brief trailer probably of what things I am going to discuss. Then I would identify the key 2 to 3 phrases in my essay, and then I would go for expanding each of them, and finally concluding them in the form of solution and conclusion, right. So this was all about the essay paper. So I would thank everyone for watching this video, and you should, as last words, you should thoroughly prepare for this examination and don't neglect these 2 papers, because they can be definitely keys of your success. Thank you everyone.